25, 40, run, William, run! He's got blockers in front, 5, touchdown! Joshua Cribbs! Snap back, ball down, kick block! They block the kick!
This is the Oranges, Orange Browns podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network. I'm your host, Chase Smith, and with me, as always, Browns insider Jeremy Powell. Jeremy, the Browns have a new head coach. Welcome to 2020.
Hey, Chase, what is up? Hey, man, it's like Groundhog Day around here, right? How many times are we going to do this show? New coach. Get excited, baby. You know what, though? I'll be honest, Chase. I was, as you know, I was all aboard the Josh McDaniels Express. Like, I wanted Josh McDaniels. I think more because I like the idea of Josh McDaniels, right? A guy with 6 rings, a guy who'd been around the greatest quarterback in NFL history, the guy who'd been around the greatest coach in NFL history, the guy who'd been to 9 Super Bowls, who knows the structure of a great organization. I fell in love with that idea. I don't think it was Josh McDaniels as much as the idea of Josh McDaniels. But after hearing Stefanski today, I've taken a turn and I feel good again, Chase.
Well, that makes one of us, Jay. So let's start here. Why not Josh McDaniels? Why didn't we hire Stefanski? I mean, I know we couldn't have because they were still playing, but why is Josh McDaniels not our head coach?
Well, I think 2 things. I maintain, and I had some information that he really wanted that Carolina job. That I don't care what anybody says after the fact. The Carolina job was the job he wanted. He was blindsided when, I've told people
his agent was playing him.
His agent,
it's crazy,
unbelievable, right? Can you imagine? And I can't get super specific, but I know he had done an absolute ton of preparation for that interview, right? He was ready to go. He'd spent days assembling material, getting ready to talk with all this stuff, and then to find out in the morning that his agent had negotiated a deal with a different client, and he never even got to go on the interview, and his agent didn't tell him. Absolutely unbelievable. So the whole time I wanted Josh McDaniels, but I kept hearing from a couple people that were close to the situation, don't get too excited because I don't think it's going to happen. Now, obviously, it didn't happen. What happened? Here's what happened. I think that Jimmy Haslam is looking for, like DePodesta said today, they want a coach that's going to be here for the next 10 years. I think he realizes the biggest problem he's had in this organization since he took over is they've never had a structure where everybody were on the same page. Look, you had a marriage between Hugh and Sashi that was a forced marriage. Everything that's been going on, DePodesta and Dorsey never worked. We've never had a copacetic front office coach combo that is on the same page and moving the same way. And you know darn well, Chase, you've been involved in a lot of churches, right? A lot of organizations. If you got one guy going one direction, another guy going another direction, it will never work. Everybody has to be rowing the ship the same way, rowing the boat the same way for the boat to go anywhere, right?
Yeah.
And I think finally, they still got to pick their GM, but they're all doing this together. I think finally they might be going in that direction. Will it work? We have no idea. But at least Jimmy understands that there's been a big structural error in the organization, and he's doing the best of his ability to fix it, I believe.
I want to circle back around to hiring a GM. Sure. We're going to talk about that as soon as we talk about the hiring. But one more thing on McDaniels, Jay. I don't know much about Josh McDaniels or his agent, but I'm wondering if this isn't like it's backed out of the Colts job. Yeah. Like maybe
his agent then was Bob Lamond. Now it's Trace Armstrong. Two of the biggest. They're the two biggest.
Trace Armstrong. I don't know.
Yeah, really.
I mean,
no, probably not. Well, he's running out of agents. There's Jimmy Sexton, Trace, and Bob Lamond are like the 3 biggest coaches' agents, right? Bob Lamond literally fired Josh. Bob Lamond fired him after he backed out of the Colts deal, dropped him as a client. Yeah. So that I actually, what's funny, as crazy as that is, Chase, that we didn't, and everyone listening, we didn't talk about this before, but I had that exact same thought. Maybe his agent said, good, screw Josh. Look what he did to my client or, my colleague. I'm not going to tell him, what do they call it? Turnabout is fair play. So maybe a turnabout was fair play on Josh McDaniels here, but it's crazy that I had that exact same thought.
And I don't want to spend too much time talking about Josh McDaniels, but he was seemed to be the fan darling, fan coach of choice. all sorts of stuff. I mean, Saturday, Sunday, Cleveland Browns Twitter was just a circus of delight and extravagance with
Well, you know why? Part of it is Dustin
tracking.
Fox is from where? Stark County. Ken Carman, Stark County. These guys are all from the same area. These guys, and let me tell you this, and I have a very, very good friend who's a very prominent member of that same community that's been feeding me some stuff as well. Josh McDaniels is talking. Oh, he's talking. And part of the reason that this was pushed so much by the Ken Carmans and Dustin Foxes, and I love both of them. Don't let me take this as an attack. I love those guys. Is they knew the access they would have with a Josh McDaniels, okay, as coach. They would be the inside guys.
Boys are back
in this
in
organization.
town.
Absolutely. So don't, get it twisted. That was at least part of what was driving this whole thing. Look, Dustin Fox with all the cryptic tweets and going crazy, and, all this stuff that
Dustin
was going
Fox
on.
was flexing all weekend, man.
Oh,
He was loving
he was,
it,
dude. And I love Dustin. Don't get me wrong.
Dustin's the bomb, man.
Yeah, he's an awesome dude. But he was on it. He was feeling it, right? He was feeling it. But
Sure.
so that's why, though. I think part of that was fan driven because he's from the area. The Patriots, even though everybody hates the Patriots, you cannot deny the greatness of the organization. It's structurally sound, all that stuff. And then he's from here. He's from here. He has a lot of friends around here. He was a star in high school. Canton McKinley. His dad was a legendary coach in the area. That's also what's driving a lot of this was his dad was talking. That's who's the source for Steve Dorchik from the Canton Repository had that incredible article with all that inside info that was all straight from Tom McDaniels. So yeah, very, very interesting. But and it was a letdown to a lot of fans. I said from the beginning, Stefanski was my third. I liked Salah and McDaniels as 1-2, but the only person that I would have jumped off the 480 bridge for was Brian Daboll. I wanted nothing to do with Brian Daboll. I had a theory. I don't know if you saw it on Twitter. Remember when it started leaking that the Browns were going to talk to the Bills
To make
assistant?
this better, yeah.
Yeah, I think that the Browns leaked that just to make when they saw, oh man, people are going nuts over McDaniels. We already know it's not going to be McDaniels. Let's leak it could be Daboll, so then people will be feel a little better about Stefanski. Yeah, that's kind of some 3D chess type stuff, but who knows?
So this Kevin Stefanski was who DePodesta wanted last year, correct?
Absolutely, yes.
He recommended Stefanski, but instead they went with Freddie Kitchens. What makes Stefanski such an appealing DePodesta darling is what we'll call him. DePodesta's white whale. What makes Stefanski last year the number one choice, and this year it seemed like they knew way earlier than Sunday, Jeremy.
Yeah, they probably
looking
did.
back
And
at
I think,
everything. It
right.
seemed
Well, look,
like some of this was
all,
just
absolutely.
fanfare.
And remember all the stories that when they hired Hugh, DePodesta recommended Sean McDermott. Obviously, Sean McDermott has turned out to be a better coach than Hugh Jackson. Last year, he recommended Kevin Stefanski. They go with Freddie Kitchens. Obviously, that didn't work out. And here's what makes it work. They're both Ivy League guys, right?
Yeah.
They both believe in analytics, but the analytics, and I was so glad because I've been beating my head against the wall talking about this on Twitter for years. It was so nice to hear Depot come out, have a media availability today, and explain it. People blow it way out of proportion. All analytics in sports is using the data available to you to make the best decisions possible. How can anybody think that's a bad idea? To gather all the data you can possibly find and use that data to help make smart decisions. Let me give you an example of this. Remember how we talked all year about how Baker Mayfield was a 70% passer out of 21 personnel, 22 personnel, which is 2 tight ends, 2 receivers, right, on the field. Baker is a better player out of that formation. Yet for some reason, Freddie was only using it 25% of the time. So it's taking that data, knowing that if you run this play in this situation, it's going to succeed 70% of the times, having that data at your fingertips and using that data. That was part of where Freddie Kitchens failed. He didn't seem to either understand or want to use the data or have the discipline during the game to stick to that data. And I think Stefanski, the one thing, and then, I don't know if you noticed, I tweeted out today and then Nathan Zagura actually commented on it. I said that I guarantee you we will not have all the situational awareness issues that Freddie had last year with Stefanski. And
That's the nicest way to word that, by the way.
yeah, and Nathan jumped in and said, yeah, that's exactly correct. Or he said correct, or, whatever. Because it is. You can tell, listen to Stefanski talk for 5 minutes. You know that he is going to he's going to understand what's going on in the game, the situations. He's going to be extremely prepared. I think that Stefanski's got calm, cool, collected, intelligent, and I think all the things that DePodesta is and sees in a coach, Stefanski lines up with that, and he's open to using that. But I just don't understand being – and I know there's still some old quote football guys. I mean, Dorsey, Gettleman, these guys, that era, that are don't want to hear it because they want to go just strictly on instinct and feel. But why would you go just on instinct and feel? Yes, there's a spot for instinct and feel and understanding, the situation and going with your gut. There's a time for that, no doubt. There's a time for that. But why wouldn't you want to use all the information available to make an informed decision? Everything else we do, when you go buy a car, do you just say, yeah, I'll take that car? My gut feeling is I'm going to like it. Or do you look at the miles per gallon? Do you look at, the size of the trunk? What is important to you? Do you take all the information available before you make a big decision? We do that in life every single day. Why wouldn't we apply that to sports if we were a coach at the highest level?
Yeah, let's get to know Kevin Stefanski a little bit. If they're looking for stability, they looked in the right direction. He's been with Minnesota since 2006, Jeremy. He
Three regimes. He survived
Stefanski
three
survived
regimes.
3 head coaches: Brad Childress, Leslie Frazier, Mike Zimmer. He strong ties with Pat Shurmur. The Giants last year requested to interview him for their offensive coordinator job, and the Vikings denied him. So he's with Minnesota once again. He served for 4 years as an assistant QB coach for the Vikings, and then for a year, 2017 to 2018. So a lot of work with quarterbacks. He obviously makes Kirk Cousins look like a Pro Bowler. The Vikings were good enough to make it to the second round of the playoffs this year. Kirk Cousins was having an MVP caliber season. He was putting up career numbers. A lot to like out of the Vikings offense. Jay, one of the common kind of detractors to that will say, well, that's a lot of Gary Kubiak, which is interesting because his name, along with Wade Phillips and a couple other big names, are being rumored to be interested in coming to Cleveland. What does Stefanski have in store for his coordinators and the rest of his coaching staff?
Well, Stefanski didn't even hide it today. He said he was going to call Gary Kubiak. I don't know Wade Phillips. The rumor is now that Wade Phillips is not going to be – maybe he'll be another role, maybe a senior defensive advisor or something, but he's probably not going to be defensive coordinator. We'll wait and see before we say anything definite on that. And he said today he was going to call Kubiak. He said Kubiak's down at his ranch in Texas enjoying the beginning of the offseason, and he will call him and he will reach out and gauge his interest. Kubiak would be great. One thing about Kubiak that you got to love is everywhere he's been, his offense is good. He's been with the Texans, the Broncos, anywhere he goes. It's that Shanahan system. Kyle Shanahan, Mike Shanahan, Gary Kubiak. That's their system.
West
right?
Coast, baby.
The zone running scheme with a ton of play action off it, a fullback. Remember Spider 3Y Banana with John Gruden? Spider 3Y Banana is a play in the Gary Kubiak Shanahan offense, right? That's what it is, though. It's zone blocking. You have to have athletic offensive linemen who are intelligent. You have to have a quarterback who is willing to play from under center, who understands the play action game. You got to have a fullback. You got to have tight ends that can play, and you got to have a couple good receivers. What's funny is if you look at Minnesota's personnel, and I think Stefanski was thinking about this, he even said something similar to this today, but Minnesota's personnel lines up with the Browns personnel a lot as far as skill players, right? You have Dalvin Cook, you have Adam Thielen, you have Diggs, you have minus the tight ends, which we really need. We'll see what happens with Njoku. We definitely need a second tight end, but the skill players are similar. They have 2 really good wide receivers. We have 2 really good wide receivers. They have a really good running back. We have 2 really good running backs. We need a tight end. We need another fullback. But outside of that, we do have similar personnel to the Vikings. A lot of people think, Kirk Cousins and Baker are similar size, right? Similar size guys. Both have good accuracy. We'll see if they can plug. I mean, Baker's going to have to be ready to work like he's never worked, right, this offseason. He's got to learn a new offense. He's got to master this offense. A lot of times last year, I think we talked about this on here. I know I've talked about it on Twitter. It looked like whenever they were running the limited play action that they did run, it was almost an afterthought. Baker never sold it. He's going to have to sell those fakes. That's what gets everybody moving so he can get outside the pockets on those boots and have time to get the ball downfield, right? That's a big part of this offense is selling those fakes. Baker is going to need to work on that. But I think the biggest draw, and a couple guys actually said this. Joe Thomas said a player in the league told him that everybody's looking for the next big thing, the next young offensive coordinator. This could be it. This could be the young offensive coordinator dude who springs onto the scene and really turns the team around. This could be it. But and I will admit this, his staff is so important. For a guy that's only 37 years old, first-time head coach, only was a coordinator for a couple years, it is imperative that he does get a Gary Kubiak or Wade, or a Wade Phillips, someone like that, a veteran that he can lean on. That's going to be imperative, I think, especially when you look through this organization. There's nobody like that, right? There's no John Dorsey anymore, someone who's been around the league forever to turn to. You're probably going to have Andrew Berry or George Patton from Minnesota. George Patton's another guy. He's assistant GM that the Browns have requested. He's accepted the interview. And Schefter said it's a big deal that he's accepted the interview because this guy turns down tons of interviews every year to be a general manager. He's another guy that's been with the Vikings for a long time. So he said it's pretty significant because a lot of teams have tried to pull him away from Minnesota. He hasn't been willing. So, but either way, you're going to have a guy that's a first-time GM, or you're going to have Andrew Berry, who's only 31 years old as the GM. You have nobody in that front office with a ton of football experience, right? I mean, with any football experience. So it's going to be imperative that Stefanski get a couple veterans on that staff that he can lean on when times get tough, because they will get tough. No matter how good things go, there's going to be times where he's going to have issues. He's going to need someone to consult, and he's going to have somebody like that there.
This is what Kirk Cousins had to say about Kevin Stefanski. The Browns got a great head coach in Kevin. He has a smart football mind, a strong communicator, and he will lead the organization well. I think back to Jimmy Haslam's press conference, what felt like 5 years ago, but it was just like 8 days ago or so. Those are qualities that he mentioned, the qualities that you talked about, utilizing the current player skill set, helping Baker. I mean,
Players,
that's
not
what
plays.
makes me feel like they knew pretty much at that point, really probably even from last year's interview, that this is who they wanted to go with, because he checks all those boxes. It's pretty much in every way possible, the anti-Freddie Kitchens. As
it really is. It's
as much of a blob
yes.
as Freddie Kitchens looked like, Kevin Stefanski looks fine as hell.
Man, come on. No, he does. Let's be honest. The guy has movie star good looks. He looks like George Clooney.
Sending pictures of him to her girlfriends. She's not usually like that. I mean,
did you hear? Let me sneak this one in. Did you see what I just posted? My wife just 15 minutes ago said to me, okay, right before she went to bed, she said, that guy's awesome and everything, but he's just kind of too Ivy League. He's like, Freddie Kitchens was Cleveland, man. That giant gun in that hoodie, that just said Cleveland.
That is true.
I just lost it. But you know what? No, you're right, though. You're right. He is literally the antithesis of Freddie Kitchens in every way. Mm-hmm. He's put together. He's in great shape. He's a good-looking guy. He's well-spoken. He's a Penn graduate, right? He graduated from Penn. He's an Ivy League guy. He's intelligent. He spent his entire career with one organization. Well, Freddie was sort of the traditional football. He was with Arizona. Yeah, he's been, all over the place, how most coaches are. So it really is rare. A lot, I heard a lot of people talk about this today, that a guy spend 14 years with one organization now, right?
That is impressive.
And to get through three, be kept on by three different staffs. The only guy I've ever heard of that's our old buddy who's special, Chris Tabor.
Who's from Minnesota, so or
ironic. Chris Tabor?
No, not that guy. Our current special.
You're thinking Mike Prefer. He's
going to stick on the staff, right?
Yeah, he's going to. Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt that they'll keep
baby.
Prefer. I mean, he completely turned around our special teams. But Chris Tabor, who survived 3 coaching staffs as special teams coordinator, was the only guy I'd ever heard of such a thing. So,
which is absurd.
There was also rumors. I don't know if you heard that before the playoffs, Minnesota was actually considered, if they another first-round exit, firing Zimmer and keeping Stefanski as the head coach. Excuse me. So that was there as well. So, I mean, I loved everything I heard. I love the way he said it. I like his background. I like he said he's the antithesis of Freddie Kitchens. Hopefully it's not an overcorrect. They always say whenever you get rid of somebody, you look for the exact opposite of that person going the other way. Hopefully it's not an overcorrect, but I don't think it is. I think, and obviously I'm an optimistic guy, but I think they might have hit it right, but time will tell. Go win some games.
One final thing before we rate this hire, Jay, what are a couple of takeaways from his press conference today? What did you like?
Oh, I loved the best line The best line of the entire press conference was, he doesn't mind personality. Or he says, what is the exact? I want to get the exact quote right.
Personalities are welcome. Production is required.
Yes, I thought that was a great line. I had never heard that before.
Yeah.
I thought that was fantastic. I talked about it a little too before. I don't want to get too mushy religious on us, but I love the servant leader aspect. That's something I personally believe in my own life, and I try to live by. I think the best leaders serve, and they do it for that reason. They want to serve, and I think when someone sees the leader, the old story about John Wooden. John Wooden used to sweep his own floor every single day after practice. John Wooden, the legendary, maybe the greatest basketball coach in history, would be out on his own court sweeping his own floor after practice. When people see the leader of the organization willing to empty the trash cans and sweep the floors, that makes, it sends a message that no job is too small. Everything needs to be done. Everybody can do this if the guy leading the organization can do this. So I loved his service leader. I know has ties to biblical, but it doesn't have to be. It's just, as a leader, if you're willing to serve those that you're leading, it goes a long way. I love that. Obviously, who's going to be intelligent. We know the guy is an Ivy Leaguer. He's a smart guy. He's going to be well prepared. I don't think he's not going to be like, how Freddie a lot of times will say stuff off the cuff, the whoop-de-hell thing, just a lot of things. You'd hear Freddie didn't always seem like prepared. He would shoot from the hip, and sometimes we like that, and there's a quality to that. Nobody dislikes Freddie as a person. Everyone thinks he's a good guy, but sometimes it might be better to be a little calculated and not say things off the cuff. And I think that Stefanski is that kind of guy who's always going to be prepared and is probably rarely going to say something off the cuff.
One other thing before we rate this higher, Jay, DePodesta had some mic time today.
Loved it.
Pretty much changed the whole narrative on the advanced analytics. Summarize what he had to say and what that means for this team moving forward. There was a lot being said that there was going to be Friday meetings, going to be Friday reports.
Right. And all that was
obviously a lot of it was misunderstood.
Right. And that's what I said at the beginning. All analytics is using all the information available to make the best decisions possible. I never understood why people were so scared of that aspect of it. One thing that DePodesta said that I really respected was, look, and a lot of people said, oh, he'll go, weeks at a time without being in the building. He said that's absolutely not true. He said he's been in the building every week since training camp, okay, all the way from the whole of California. He is here every single week. He said he did the same thing when he worked with the Mets. His family stayed in California. He understood that if he was going to pursue this, that it was going to be tough on his family. He decided the best thing was he wanted stability for his family, so his wife and kids were going to stay there, and he was going to commute essentially to wherever he was working. That's a heck of a – imagine Chase flying in somewhere Monday and flying home on Thursday every single week for 50 weeks. Imagine that, Imagine the sacrifice that takes. So I have a lot of respect, newfound respect for Paul DePodesta. I love the fact that he answered to the media today. I love the fact he took the questions. He said, actually, his contract is up, but he said he had told Jimmy, let's get the coach right. I'm not worried about my contract. He is going to stay on with the organization. I thought he did a fantastic job. Yeah, everybody in Haslam was really pissed about the report that they were going to have to bring the game plan to him for approval on Friday. And the more I thought about that, the more it doesn't even make sense. I can't believe that some people that are well-respected even push that. If you are taking to the game plan for approval from the owner on Friday, the hay's already in the barn. You've already installed the game plan all week. So what, you're going to go Friday and redo it? You can't. At that point, the game plan is done. The preparation is done. That was part of the problem the team had with Freddie. I heard a lot of this talk today, that Freddie would call plays on Sunday that weren't even in the game plan. And that was part of the reason we had a lot of lineup issues lining up. There was plays that they did not practice, did not put in the game plan that Freddie would think about and call during the games. So I just don't buy this whole thing that they were going to have to get the game plan approved on Friday by analytics and the owner. That doesn't even make sense. As far as the other story that you're going to have a 30 to 60 or a meeting with the owner every Monday, found out today that almost every team does that. And Haslam said, yeah, they've been doing that since he bought the team, and every team does a little 30 to 60 minute meeting with the owner on Monday, because you lead the organization. You want to see what happened. I don't have a problem with that. If I own the Browns, I would want to talk to the head coach and get his feel for the game on Mondays as well. Wouldn't you? I don't think that's out of the realm of normal at all. And I know it's not, because I heard that almost every team does it.
Yeah.
So another thing that they made a big deal about was having an analytics guy on a headset during the game. DePodesta said 30 teams in the league. Everybody now has a guy that with some, stats and information on a headset in case they have a question for him about, a certain thing. He said that actually, I don't remember which coach he said it. It wasn't Freddie, maybe Hugh actually asked for them to have someone available to answer questions during the game. So all this stuff that they tried to use as scare tactics was just buoy. Now, will this work? We do not know. I mean, this could be an epic failure as well. But I'm going to give the Browns a little leeway. I see their plan. I see them working. I see them trying to get the whole organization on the same page. And I at least can respect the fact that Haslam understands that he's made some big mistakes and he's trying to rectify them.
All right, Jay. So 1 through 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. Rate this hire to the Browns. What do you give them?
I would love to say incomplete, but that's not what we're doing here.
Nope.
I'm going to say at this moment, after hearing everything, doing the background work, hearing what people had to say about, I'm going to give it a 6 for right now. Soleil, I'm going to give it a 6. I probably would have given it a 3 on Saturday, but after sitting back and thinking about it and hearing what everybody had to say, I'm going to give it a 6.
I was thinking 6 as well, but I'm not as excited about it as you are. So I don't understand why I want to say 6. I think because deep down I know he's probably going to be a good coach, right?
I
Like
think he will.
all these things we hear, I'm like, man, that makes sense, or that makes sense. And so my brain is telling me that, hey, like you need to be excited about this. But my heart, Jay, my heart is not like shouting Stefanski from the rooftops. My heart is not just like excited, and I don't know why. And so I want to say 6, and I also want to say 4, and I don't want to say 5 because that's not an opinion.
I get you.
So 6, but I don't understand it. I just.
Let me say another thing that I liked that I heard from, circle back a little bit to the DePodesta media availability today. Depot said, they're looking at this long term and they honestly think that Stefanski is a guy who could be here for the next 10 years. I love that. It's time, right?
Yeah.
It's time that we get a Mike Tomlin. It's time that we find somebody that, if we got the whole organization on the same page and we start winning the game, there's no reason why. And, I agree with that. I think that at least we know that DePodesta and these guys, they think they found the guy and they want to run with it, So I hope that this is our Mike Tomlin, right? Our guy that's going to be here for a decade. And who knows, he's 37 years old. Maybe he takes it and runs with it, and we do have our guy. He got a 5-year deal. A lot of people are doing the over-under thing on the Twitter today. I'm going to say at minimum 3 years. Because I just know that they know at this point they cannot turn over this organization again. So, but I think that maybe this is it, man, Chase. Maybe we finally found our guy.
Well, it's interesting. Tomlin was a Vikings D coordinator hired by the Steelers, who is still there, won a Super Bowl, had quite a bit of success in Pittsburgh. Jeremy, any final thoughts, brother?
No, I guess my final thought is, one thing that bothers me so bad is and we've talked about this before, is the people telling other people how to fan. Look, if you're excited, be excited. If you don't like the hire, don't like the hire. Don't let anyone else force you into change in your opinion. But reality, when it comes down to it, Chase, we really have 2 choices, don't we? We either support it or we don't. We're either a fan of the Browns or we're not. That's what it is. And, guys like me and you, we couldn't quit them if we tried, right? So we're really forced to support it. Now, that all being said, I'm glad that everything I heard today I thought was excellent. So that helps me get behind it. Hearing Stefanski, hearing Depot, hearing Jimmy and these guys talk, I thought they were excellent today. I agreed with a lot of what they said, but ultimately it comes down to winning games on the field. So, I guess my final thought would be, I understand your trepidation. I understand if you don't like Stefanski, but really the only options we have are like it or not. And that's it.
Yeah. Well, Jay, it's great to talk to you, man. Looking to get back into some type of rhythm and pattern here. I'm still working on that and that 5 hot minute season long recap. We got some guests lined up for the show. It's going to be a great off season. Jeremy, hey man, we'll record once they hire a GM and finish out this coaching staff. We'll do a end of season recap. We'll do all these things. It's going to be great. Have a great week, Jay.
You as well, my man. Go Browns.
Hoo, hoo, hoo. I am now joined by one of the few Viking fans that I know. I don't know very many, but this one is unashamedly a Vikings fan. Andrew Courtney, welcome to the Oranges Under Browns podcast. Andrew, how long have you been a Vikings fan?
Most of my life, probably since I was 8 or 9. So a little bit before Brett Favre got there. So actually probably the year Adrian Peterson was a rookie, honestly, back in like 012.
Okay.
Not 012.
So
when was he a rookie? Was he 012? Was he a rookie then?
I don't know. I'm not a
Vikings
Vikings fan.
It's been a long time.
But I wanted to bring you on for a couple reasons. One, Stefanski, our new head coach for the Browns, has been with the Vikings for a long time. I wanted to get your thoughts. I just wanted to kind of hear your opinion on him. I'm sure you know of him if you're a Vikings fan. And then kind of what your favorite parts about him as a coach was. So what is your initial reaction to the fact that he is no longer part of the Viking staff? Your initial gut reaction, oh, man, we lost Stefanski. What are you thinking?
Praise the Lord.
Oh, no.
We got Gary Kubiak running the offense now. Listen, all right, we had a public meltdown because of how bad our offense was in like week 3. Like there's rumors that Stephon Diggs was wanting a trade. There was Thielen complaining the offense isn't working. Kirk Cousins had to make a public apology to Adam Thielen because the offense wasn't working. Like we brought on Gary Kubiak to help him run the offense. So like Gary Kubiak's official title is he's like an assistant to the head coach and assistant offensive coordinator. So it's almost like
Dwight
a middle
Schrute of the Vikings.
He's like almost a middleman between Stefanski and
so
Mike
you believe that Stefanski was to blame for that?
I mean, even if you look at the play calling against the 49ers, we've run the ball all year. That's how we got our success is by running the ball. We beat the Saints. Why? Because Dalvin Cook got like 28 rushes, I think, on the game. 49ers, he had 9 rushing attempts.
Well, you beat the Saints because Kirk Cousins dropped a dime in the end zone in overtime.
Well, yes, but we were in that game because Dalvin Cook ran the ball, right? He ran the ball efficiently. That's how we've gotten throughout this entire year. That's been our offense. And against the 49ers, we run the ball 9 times.
So
we give our best player the ball 9 times offensively.
So as a Vikings fan, you are ecstatic that Stefanski is no longer on your coaching staff.
I mean, yes and no. He was all right. But, I mean, if you're looking to hire a head coach who's an offensive coordinator, I'd be looking for, the Chiefs offense, the Ravens offense. Like, nothing about the Vikings offense screams that's the guy.
But unless you use advanced analytics, Andrew, that's the whole point of this whole thing. Advanced analytics rules the day.
Oh. Bro, our defense has been the staple point of our team for the past – ever since Mike Zimmer has been our head coach, it's been our defense that's been the better side of the 2 balls.
So you are not worried about the Vikings' success because you lost Kevin Stefanski?
No.
You have a fond memory? I mean, what about your offense was exciting?
Well, when we gave Dalvin Cook the ball, it made our offense work because then with Kirk Cousins, he worked the play action pass so well. Like very few quarterbacks can run the play action pass as well as Kirk Cousins. If you look at the stats, he had an incredible year. Whenever we ran the ball effectively, so like if you look at our team, take Dalvin Cook out, we can't win. We have not won a game this year where Dalvin Cook didn't play the whole game. Like Seattle, he played half the game, went out early 3rd quarter, and then we ended up losing that game by 7. I believe the Chiefs are the only after week 5, since week 5 when we got our offense together, the Chiefs are the only team that we've lost to in the regular season where Dalvin Cook played the whole game. So it was if we had our explosive playmaker, it was a very fun offense to watch because we could make a big explosive plays with the play action pass, especially with Kirk Cousins rolling out to his left. He was making big plays there. And so, yeah, he did have some success, but ultimately we had to run the ball effectively for our offense to work.
So looking at the Browns roster, do you feel like Stefanski would be a good fit with that scheme and who the Browns have in their talent?
If he runs the ball.
Well, we have the best runner in the league, and then Kareem Hunt.
And you do not have the best runner in the league.
Okay. Remember what podcast you're on, buddy. And then you have OBJ, and Jarvis, and Baker. I mean, it seems very complimentary to what the Vikings had on their offensive.
Yes. I feel like our offenses are very similar. The only thing I don't know about you is how well your offensive line looks in terms of run blocking. The Vikings kind of built our offensive line for run blocking. You can see that with some of the guards we've signed, even with Garrett Bradbury. But yeah, so we're a very run-first offense. And so if you have a team that can block for the run where the play-action pass could work, I think that you could have an effective offense. Defensively, I don't know what you're going to do because you haven't had too much success there recently.
Okay. So you like a team in the NFC. You don't have a dog in this fight. Do you feel like Stefanski could be the guy to solve the Browns' problems from what you know of him?
Maybe.
A ringing endorsement from a Vikings fan.
Being in the AFC, I mean, you got the Ravens, you got the Patriots, you have the Texans, you have even the Titans.
I'm waiting for you to I'm waiting for you to name a good team.
Those were all playoff teams. When was the last time the Browns were in the playoffs?
Okay. So back to the question. You're not too expectant that Stefanski is going to fix our problems.
I think there's a chance, but I don't think he was the best guy you could have gotten.
Okay.
I think there's better options out there, especially because you don't have a GM. So now in your GM, you don't have a GM to help you with that decision on who the coach should be. So it's whoever you hire at GM, you're going to be forcing a relationship there and kind of hoping that they can work together to get on the same page.
So would you be excited if you're a Browns fan?
It's hard to say because you have all this talent and it's just a matter of making it work together. I think he's going to be a hit or miss. I think he'll either be a Freddie Kitchens 2.0 or someone that can make the offense work and make it worthy of the talent that it has.
Well, there you go. Andrew, the Vikings fan, thank you for your Stefanski download. Appreciate it, man. And I would say good luck to the Vikings, but, man, you're pretty hateful towards our Brownies here. So may you not make the playoffs for as long as Stefanski's our head coach. That's what I'll say to you.
Oh, so 1 year?
Okay. All right. See you, buddy.
See you, Chase.
For the USA, painted brown and orange for the